Yo, pull up a chair, let the real talk begin. Faith on the table where the brothers lock in. Life gets heavy, but we stand our ground. Truth in the room when the circle comes round. No mask, no front, just real man here. Talking about faith through the doubt and the fear. From the grind of the week to the lessons we share. Welcome to the men's round table, pull up a chair. Men's round table series, step inside. Real men, real faith where the truths collide. Voices at the table where the stories get shared. Welcome to the men's round table. Pull up a chair.
Welcome back to the Men's Roundtable Series Interview Spotlight. I'm your host, Mr. U. If you're watching us for the very first time, wherever you are, however you're listening, live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, thanks for making us part of your week. Definitely appreciate it. For you guys that are new to us, you might have heard the name before in a similar place. We have a Men's Roundtable Series podcast every Thursday night, 7 p.m. EST. We created a safe space for men to talk about men's issues, validation, father wound, anything that has to do, all the narrative that has to do with men, manhood and fatherhood. We talk about it. So husbands, fathers, brothers, and sons, you're invited every Thursday night, 7 p.m. EST. This show is a one-on-one interview spotlight with men who are doing some powerful things in the world. Want to give them some praise and some props for doing what they do. So our guest today, good buddy of mine, host of the Raising Men podcast, Shaun Dawson, is in studio with us. Shaun, how are you, man? Good to have you here.
I'm doing fantastic. Never better. It is an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
Same here, bro. I appreciate the opportunity to do this with you, man. I've been watching your work on social media. I've been following you guys from a distance. I know we got a lot that we do on our side, but it seems the work seems to be enjoying together, if you will. So I'm excited to boost you guys wherever I can and watch your work and point people in your direction. So good to have you here. Finally, let's have a chat, man. Can we do that?
Let's do it, man. That is the name of the game.
Absolutely. So I want to get into a few things. We already know, there's a lot of narratives about this out there about men. Around next month, around this time, I'm probably going to have a slight attitude problem because Father's Day for me isn't something that I see done in a way I think is respectful and honoring. I don't always see that. So I'm keeping my attitude right now. So hopefully when Father's Day comes around, I'm not, a grumpy old man. But
I love that. I'm eager to hear more about your thoughts about that. I have complicated feelings about Father's Day myself, but it's generally a good thing. So I'm eager to hear more.
Yeah, I talk about it probably too much on our shows, but the short version of it is when Mother's Day comes around, you already seen it. It's a full court press. You can't turn your TV on and watch one show without seeing Mother's Day stuff 10 times in one episode, a 60-minute episode. When Father's Day come around, you see it'll be a lot more sparse. You see things like macaroni necklaces and sun visors and a really bad tie or a power tool. And I'm like, some kind of grill or utensil or instrument. I'm like, okay, fathers are so much deeper than that. We have so many more layers to us. There's other things that we like too. So I deal with that stuff. It's my own little personal pet peeve.
Yeah, it is a microcosm for kind of the attention to fathers in our culture. You're exactly right about that.
Fathers do a lot of good things that you never hear about. Yep. So that's why shows like yours and ours, we're shining a light on what fathers are actually doing and the impact they're actually making. So let's get into our convo. You talk a lot about healthy masculinity for young men. I'd love to hear where you think the biggest mistakes are that fathers are making when they're trying to teach it.
Yeah, man, that is a deceptively deep and incisive question. But I would say that the most, I think the biggest mistake people make when they think about masculinity is they often think about masculinity as performance. That masculinity is about the show of masculinity. That strength is about puffing out your chest and being the tough guy. And what's interesting about that is I also think we all know deep down that that's not true. When we have in our minds the the idea of a true man, a real masculine person, it's not somebody who goes out puffing out his chest. It's not somebody who's making a performance about being strong or powerful or any of that stuff. It's the guy who's in the corner who doesn't have to say anything. You just feel it exuding from him. And we all know that. And yet, I think a lot of people fall victim to the need to have a performative display. And that actually goes to the next part of your question, which is, well, what about, how we're demonstrating that, how we're teaching it to our boys, for example. And the fact is that the vast majority of the lessons that our boys get from us, they get from modeling. They get from watching us. They don't listen to what we say. They watch what we do, and they do the same thing. And so, if you're out there acting like a tough guy and puffing out your chest and getting in people's way and talking smack and doing all that, all the performative masculinity stuff, well, then your boy is gonna take that, and he's gonna think that that's what masculinity is. And the most important thing we can do is surround our young men with models that they can emulate, models of healthy masculinity, and that's not it.
No question. Great answer, sir. I want to get into your podcast work, but I got a couple more questions for you before we get there. What would you say, Shaun, is the moment that you realized that fathers needed to have a different kind of conversation when it comes to raising boys? When did you figure out that, you know what, the route that we're going, we're hitting a dead end here. We need to change the narrative, shift the conversation. When did you figure that out?
Yeah, around my time, my boy started going to school.
Okay.
He started going to preschool and started, being in a classroom with a lot of other kids.
Mhm.
And I ended up getting called to the school at least once a week,
no.
sometimes multiple times in a day. And he got kicked out a lot. I had a lot of conversations with the principal. The principal is an amazing guy. We were fortunate to have the principal that we had during this time. But the bottom line was, my boy, what I realized is that he's going to have a tough time in our culture. He is not the school and the culture and the rest of the society is trying to mold him into something that is not natural for him. And it's my job to figure out how, to give him the capabilities to thrive in our culture, the way that it is. I can rail against it if I want to. I can complain about how, it's not the way it ought to be. That's true. But I have to give him the skills to thrive in the way that our society is when he graduates into it. And that means, frankly, that I can't go on autopilot. The way that I was brought up and is not applicable to the modern world. And I'm going to need to figure out something different than just doing the same thing that my parents did.
Yeah, there's no one size fits all for sure, man. We raised 3 girls, so it's a little bit different. We got grandsons, but we don't have, we don't have sons.
Yeah,
so,
and girls, girls come with their own challenges. They're and they're really difficult challenges in their own right. That's not to diminish what girls go through. I think one of the big pervasive issues in our culture is this kind of notion that in order for boys to thrive, that takes away from girls in some way, or in order for girls to thrive, you need to take away from boys in some way. And that's just, that couldn't be. The opposite is true. Our kids, I don't know where that's coming from. Yeah, our kids need to thrive. And the more the girls thrive, the more the boys will thrive. And the more the boys will thrive, the more the girls will thrive. And anything that diminishes that is bad for everybody.
Definitely. Now, you didn't go into detail about what, I guess, the kind of young man you're raising in your house. But what do you think parents are misunderstanding most about raising boys in today's climate?
I think there are 2 big mistakes that people make, and it's emblematic of this kind of dichotomy we have in the social discussions around masculinity in general. And and that dichotomy, I'll explain that first, which is that, there's this sort of left coded message that comes down that is that masculinity is evil. It's bad. It's bad to be a man. And, our boys need to be more like girls. And, or
No
men
can
have
be.
had their time. It's now our time, or that sort of thing. It's this fixed sum, or zero sum mentality about, masculinity versus femininity, or what it is. And then there's this other side, which is a right coded message about no, everything that those people say is evil is actually a virtue, and that masculinity is about being an asshole, and you should embrace your just be a jerk, and that's what being a man is. And that's not true either. The fact is that there is a healthy vision of masculinity that we're losing sight of as a culture, and it involves rites of passage. It involves choosing protection rather than persecution. It means protecting the weak, right? It involves thinking, you think things through. You hold the line against the crowd that wants to do something stupid. You're able to say, no, the emperor has no clothes. That's what a man does, right? And a man is humble, and those sorts of things. And so I feel like the big mistake that a lot of parents make, to go back to your actual question, is they settle in one of those extremes. And there's a tension. And this is, this is the thing that the biggest lesson that I've learned in this entire project since I've been doing it is everything is a tension. Anytime someone comes in and says to you, X is true and it's always true, that's a lie. You need to look for the opposite thing and then look for the tension. And then you need to manage that tension. And the fact is that there are aspects of masculinity that can reasonably and rightfully be called toxic, and they're bad, and they need to be handled or addressed or suppressed in some cases. But it is a very important thing for our culture that we have strong, powerful men and good, excellent men. And we all should recognize that, and suppressing that is not the thing. And so there's a tension there.
Sounds like a beautiful world to me. I want to talk about your show, the Raising Men podcast. I talked about this book and its author probably more times than I can even imagine, because it's impacted me that much. Wild at Heart by John Eldridge. That's the book right there. If you haven't read that, or you haven't,
I shall.
I highly, I can't recommend. If it's out of 10, I'm going to say 15. There's no way you can not read this book, and the follow-up behind it, Fathered by God. So it's Wild at Heart and then Fathered by God. If you want to understand why men should not be pacified or kept safe as a child, and what it does to them emotionally and spiritually and psychologically, those two books pull back the curtain, brother. Fantastic. I'll say them again. Wild at Heart and Fathered by God, both by John Eldridge. Top of the line. Why did you start Raising Men podcast, and what changed in you as a dad after you started it?
Yeah, there were two forces that really caused me to do it. And the first I already talked about, which is just this realization that my boy is graduating into a world that is so different than the one I graduated into, that I need to really get smart about how to make sure that he turns into a strong, capable, excellent man. The second thing is, so that's how I decided to want to get informed about this. But that doesn't mean you have to start a podcast, right? It doesn't mean you have to go and do the struggle in public. And I, around that same time, I had a conversation. Well, around the time that I was thinking about this, I had a conversation with one of my closest friends from ninth grade. And I was in this guy's wedding. I was the best man in his wedding. I was there not when he met his wife, because they had been childhood friends, but when they started dating, I dated her sister. Like, we were really, really close.
Wow. Okay.
And they've been married for 20 years. And he calls me up one day and he goes, "Oh, we got to talk about something." He goes, "Oh, yeah." And I said,
Uh-oh.
as long as you're not about to tell me that you and your wife are getting divorced, we're good. And he was just silent. And I was like, "Oh man." He goes, "Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much what's going on." And I go, "Well, we got to fix this thing." And what's going on? And he started telling me about the last kind of the way that his marriage has been for the last 10 years. And it had gotten to a point that was irreconcilable, and the right thing to do was to figure out, how to raise the kids in a household that was positive and forward moving, as opposed to where they were, and so they decided to do that. But what struck me there was that I had no idea the last decade what he'd been going through. He didn't share it with me, and I felt betrayed. I felt like, dude, why didn't you let me be your friend? Why didn't you share this with me? And then right after I thought that, I realized, wait a minute, I've got a bunch of crap I'm going through, and I've never shared it with him either. I'm not letting him be my friend.
Oh, wow.
And like, what is wrong with us? My wife has, 10 different people that she shares every detail of her life with. She's so close to all of her friends. And we don't do that. We men don't do that. We need to open up the dialogue. We need to recognize, we need to be a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit in public. We need to be a little bit less performative. We need to be more acknowledging of the fact that we have internal lives that are not necessarily what we portray to the world. And that's the reason I decided to do the struggle in public.
I love it, man. I love it. So when I see the Raising Men podcast is fantastic. I'm assuming that men are definitely leaning into it and supporting you. I don't see why not.
I get an unbelievable amount of, and I'll tell you, I'll give you something I really struggle with. When I was a young boy, I had some experiences that made me want to keep my cards close to the vest. I don't want to do things in public. I don't want to talk about stuff that I haven't done yet. I don't want to share my plans, because when I was a kid, a lot of those plans and a lot of, just kind of the way that I grew up, those things got ridiculed, and I felt shame about wanting things. And it's just kind of the way that played out. And so for a long time, I didn't tell anybody what I was doing. I didn't tell any of my friends. I didn't share until after the podcast went public. I didn't feel comfortable sharing about it. And yet I decided to go do this whole journey in public. It's actually a way to kind of just shock myself out of that mentality, because it's not healthy. It's not healthy. We should rejoice in each other's struggles. And I have people in my life that will rejoice in my struggles. And when I finally kind of opened up and started talking to people, I got, not just from men and not just from fathers, but from mothers as well, I got tremendous response. Everybody was so supportive. And so, oh my gosh, people need that. I'm so happy you're doing that. And it made me feel stupid for not talking about it. And it's been invigorating. I was really worried about finding guests and who's going to want to come on this little podcast. That has not been an issue. I was worried about finding audience. That has not been an issue. It has been a really rewarding experience for me. And the best part about it, it's an excuse to get together with guys like you and talk about really meaningful stuff and have a great conversation and get to the bottom of stuff that, I wouldn't be able to figure this out by myself otherwise. And I just, man, I'm so thankful for that, for the opportunity to do that.
Same here, man. This is probably the most. I hate to say that because I'm separate. I've got 4 shows, and I want to make one sound like it's more important.
You can't have a favorite.
Like the favorite child you want to say, be like, that's my boy. that's my girl.
Yeah.
But you don't want to say it out loud because you don't give them a complex. But
Right.
this show and our roundtable, man, this is what butters the biscuits for me, man. This is what brings everything out. I'm like, yeah, this is it, because I'm a man. Husband, father, brother, and son. I qualify all 4 of those areas.
Right.
So I love what you're talking about. I love the testimony about how you're growing, man. I'm so happy for you. Legit. I'm legit happy for all your success. I'm like, yeah, it validates everything that we're trying to accomplish, man. So we're close to the end of our shows. I want to not ramble on too much, man, but I want to ask you a question, then ask you to let folks know where they can find your work and your podcast and everything. So answer this for me first.
Yeah.
To raise a good man in real life, not in theory.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Then after that, let folks know where they can find you and your work, Shaun. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, like think back to what you think about when you think of a when you think of a good man, when you think of an excellent man, not just good, right? What is excellence in being a man? We actually know we have this atavistic understanding of what that means. Some of it is kind of superficial, right? It's somebody who's strong, right? Physically strong, capable of lifting heavy boxes and in reasonable shape, right? Who controls their instincts, right? Their urges. They are in control of those things, right? But I mean, you just like think about what that means. What does it mean to be an excellent man for yourself? What does that mean? And it's we all, if you and I wrote down a bunch of things on the list, we're going to overlap about 80% of them. We're going to be things like I said, protecting the weak, being temperate when temperance is called for, thinking things through, holding the line, acknowledging mistakes, exhibiting humility, being able, recognizing when you fail at those things. This is something that I think a lot of men today, part of the reason that they're boys, they're not really men. And, and actually that's a pretty stark way of putting it, because I think everybody has ways in which they exhibit masculinity in healthy ways and extents to which they're men and extents to which they're boys. I certainly do. But one of the big shortcomings that I think a lot of guys have, myself included, is that we're not willing to acknowledge that we're failing at things. We get defensive. I had a situation just 2 days ago. My wife called me on something. I think the specific thing was that it is my job to she has this milk foamer for her coffee, and she hates cleaning it. And I like hand washing dishes. I mean, I don't love it, but I'm happy to do it. For her, it's just an unbelievable chore. And so this is something I do in our household, is I'm the guy that hand washes the dishes, right? And she came to me at one point in time and said, every morning I get up and I want my coffee, and my milk frother is dirty and it's sitting in the hand wash basket and it's not clean. And it would really mean a lot to me if you made it your mission to make sure that I had a clean milk frother every morning, so I didn't have to do this thing that I hate doing in order to get my coffee, which is like my morning pleasure. Like, and by the way, how often do you actually get the opportunity to see? Like, that is something that costs me nothing, like very little. I can wash this thing in 30 seconds, and I don't mind doing it. And it's part of what I'm doing anyway. I'm next to the sink in a lot of cases, and for a lot of reasons. And yet it brings her tremendous value. And now I'm aware of it. So I was like, you know what? I would love to be able to do that for you. I will take care of it. And then about a week later, she said,
Just the little things.
I happen to notice that you haven't really been washing my milk frother. And my instinct right then was to get defensive. Well, I've been busy and and I had all these excuses for why I didn't do it, but I didn't. And that was one of those moments. You can respond like a man or you can react like a child. And my instinct was to react like a child. And yet, and then I had to stop myself. I had to insert my conscious mind. I call it the Sherlock Holmes brain as opposed to the Conan the Barbarian brain. I had to insert my conscious mind into that moment and go, you know what? You're 100% right. And I apologize. And then I'll set up a mechanism to make sure that I do it. And so now, if I ever see that freaking thing on the hand washer, I feel like I got to clean this right now. But so that's what I would call a healthy, those are some of the components of a healthy vision of masculinity. And yeah, I think we all have it. I think we all have it in ourselves. We all know what that vision is. And we might even hide it from ourselves because we recognize that we're not living up to it. And it's really, really hard to look yourself in the mirror and recognize the fact that you're not living up to your values. And so, that's the fountainhead of all of it. Just, be candid with yourself.
This might be where Off the Rails looks like. I love it though, man. I love it. I know your wife is like happy that you are cleaning the frother. You're an awesome husband, brother.
But she's got plenty of other things to be unhappy about. That doesn't make me the perfect husband, but
that sounds like
that I am nailing.
I'm not sure I said perfect, but that's a good husband. I don't think I put perfection on you, but let folks know where they can find you, Shaun. Good to see you, man. Thank you.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah. So my website is called raising.men, and I'm at the Raising Men podcast. You can find us on all the socials. And podcast at raising.men is my email address, and I love to hear from people.
Thank you so much, sir. This is a fantastic podcast and a great podcaster. He's a great father too, man. Despite what you're hearing right now, Shaun Dawson, thanks again for making us part of your day, brother, and for being on our show, man. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Same here. Let's work together in the future if we can, man. But for you guys watching, thanks for making us part of your week. You can find us on all listening platforms, social media across the board. Follow us, subscribe, where you can help us put out more amazing content like this kind of show with Shaun Dawson. Now, Shaun, I'm Mr. You having a great day right here. Hope you are too. Thanks for watching.
Men's Roundtable Series, step inside. Real men, real faith, where the truths collide. Voices at the table where the stories get shared. Welcome to the Men's Roundtable, pull up a chair.